what is theater? What's the essence of theater? Us gathered around a fire back in the day, come harvesting time, sharing our stories, whether that's spoken, whether that's movement, whether that's song. We're sharing our stories, letting people know that they're not alone in these journeys, is the essence of theater. If we're not in the same space, sharing that same breath, what is it then? How do we move each other? I think it's still in the sharing. How we touch each other becomes something that is more a spiritual endeavor as we try and touch each other.
Hello and welcome to Arts Across America. My name is Jasmine Mans and I am joined by my co-host Jason Reynolds. We are excited to speak with Miss Regina Taylor today about art, activism, and change.
Arts Across America continues this summer with a focus on cultural leadership and public theater. Topics include art for healing, decolonization, and art as a catalyst for change. We'll explore artistic contributions from the Black trans theater community, learn about sacrifice zones and the environment, fight for women's rights in the Latinx community, discuss the prison and detention center system, and hear about the importance of indigenous food and health, plus much, much more. We will witness performances and conversations as we join together in healing our country, communities, and ourselves.
Well, without further ado, I would like to welcome my co-host, Jason Reynolds. He's a Washington, D.C. native and a New York Times best-selling author of novels and poetry books for young authors and adults alike, and currently the National Ambassador for Young People's Literature.
And I, of course, would like to welcome my co-host, Jasmine Mans. Jasmine is a Black American poet and a brilliant performance artist in the great Newark, New Jersey. I would like to introduce Ms. Regina Taylor. She's an actress, a playwright, an activist, and a leader. Taylor's invitation to create work addressing these thoughts and questions is intersecting and inclusive of any and all types of work, from video, podcast, to articles from artists, gamers, historians, under and over 21 years of age, students, professionals, and all community people are welcome. But most importantly, welcome to you, Ms. Taylor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
You are incredibly inspiring and you have an inspiring career. But firstly, I would love to ask you, what inspired you to create the Black Album Mixtape?
The Black Album Mixtape came out this past year, 2020. Very challenging for most of us. It was having conversations with various people and talking to Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, where I'm from, about how we continue to create, how we continue to teach the arts in the time of COVID. It was a COVID lockdown. It was that year where we have to sit down and for some of us, we start reflecting on how we got here, where we're from, and where we might be headed. With that, I started thinking about writing a piece for Southern Methodist University's African American students off of what was going on in the present moment. So we look at George Floyd. We look at the very incendiary political race of this past year. We look at so many people losing their jobs, having to give up things that they thought were touchstones, that which we think is stable, as sure as the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. We have to rethink everything in this year. So I started writing about it, wrote a series of short pieces, monologue scenes, music, movement, and gave that to these really amazing African American students at SMU. It was written to be presented online, rehearsed online. At a certain point, right before we opened, I'm sitting around in our rooms looking at these really amazing spirits, and I realized I've never actually met them in person. This has all been virtual. I don't know how they take up space. I don't know how tall they are, actually. I just have had this really incredible, deeply moving experience where even though we are separated by these boxes, we have become family. We know each other. So that is a challenge. That has been a challenge in time of COVID lockdown, is how we continue to reach each other across these spaces in different cities, in different formats.
Has this pandemic changed your interpersonal relationship with your art form?
Absolutely. I'm learning so much. What is theater? What's the essence of theater? Us gathered around fire back in the day, come harvesting time, sharing our stories, whether that's spoken, whether that's movement, whether that's song. We're sharing our stories, letting people know that they're not alone in these journeys. Is the essence of theater. If we're not in the same space, sharing that same breath, what is it then? How do we move each other? I think it's still in the sharing, how we touch each other becomes something that is more a spiritual endeavor as we try and touch each other. How do you meet that challenge in these times? And once the doors are back open, what do we carry with us? What do we have to let go of? What do we hold dear? Those are the questions that we have today.
I love the word mixtape. Um, it has so much connotation. It has history. Like at this point, the mixtape has history now, which is interesting because it means that I'm now old enough for a term that arguably came out of my generation to have history, which is weird. But I also have been thinking about this particular time, the 2020, as a mixed, and also as a mixtape of perhaps one might say a mixtape of complex trauma.
Mm,
And I guess my question is, how exactly or are we supposed to? And there may not be an answer here, but how exactly are we supposed to use your mixtape? And when I say your mixtape, I mean the mixtape that you created for us, for we, right? That we created for we, with you at the helm. How do we use that um, as something to counteract this mixtape that was sort of that 2020 was in terms of its trauma?
right, right. It was after the play. I wanted to hand this over to the students to speak on it, to take up these issues, to have these very necessary conversations about how do we move forward. With that, it is this platform that has been created for people to um, share their thoughts, to engage. It is an interactive history in the making. It is interactive in terms of uh, all the work that people are sharing in these different areas, whether that's the arts, whether that's a doctor who wants to have conversations with folk about why African Americans, why people of color are suspicious of COVID vaccines, which takes us to history. Do you want to write a paper about that or do some research and share that in which way? To record, to capture, to record these voices these thoughts, these ideas on this platform to be passed down, because we know nothing like this has ever happened in history before. This is a turn. This is a shift. Sometimes we don't understand that this is an historical moment that we're living through. We're not conscious of it. Right now we are. We know that whatever's happening right now, the earth shifting under our feet, we don't know if we're going to fall or fly in this moment. And nothing will ever be the same. There is no going back to what we call normal. What is happening right now is revolutionary. And I think we need to take the opportunity, that understanding that we should be present and we should be a part of making some decisions, strategizing about how we think the future might unfold in terms of better outcomes. We see these cycles happening. If we're talking about African Americans and certain shifts, certainly our history hasn't started in America, but if we just begin the conversation, Reconstruction and the shifts that happened with freedom, the right to vote that happened, and those rights that were quickly taken away into Jim Crow laws, the 13th Amendment telling us that there's no more slavery, but now we have a new type of slavery that developed out of that in response to, if we're talking about then the Harlem Renaissance and all of that flurry of activity and welcoming that came out of World War II, and people being empowered to buy homes off of the GI Bill, to get an education, to this ascension then that started again in terms of a revolution, into all of that was snatched back, or a lot was snatched back once again into looking at late 50s, 60s, again, turning tides. We're looking at very similar things right now. We should take stock, learn from our history, reevaluate, re-strategize, taking what we've learned from the past and its outcomes. How can we use what we know now using this technology and project what might happen in the next 25 years into the next generation? We need to record what's happening right now, and this is an opportunity to do that, to share.
I think there's tradition here, right? Like, I'm always thinking about what we make as artists, and their function, their fashion, all the things that we do. And I think about tradition often, just because we're all on a continuum, and though this is the first time we've ever been here, but there is a tradition. And like, I think about like Watt Stacks, and Watt Stacks, and what that, and it was just the concert, but what it did for so many people to see Stax Records all come together at the stadium, thinking about like Richard Pryor, thinking about Jesse Jackson at that time, thinking about, like everything that was happening in that moment. I think about Toni Morrison's Black Book and how important it was. I think about Jenna and Kimberly's, the latest Black Future, right? This idea that we can create concordances of our lives, or capsules for that matter. And I'm so, and I'm so grateful that the Black Album mixtape is just that. To me, it feels like a capsule. It feels like a living capsule, though. right? Not a static capsule, right? A living thing that we will be able to engage with for the next 50 years. I guess I just want you to speak about how a capsule like that, a living thing, and we spoke about this before we went live, but just talking about like the vast nature of who we are, the polythic nature of in this case, blackness, right? And how important that everybody's sort of stuff is included because that tapestry is what makes this thing work, right? It's who we actually are.
Right. Yes, we all have our different perspectives. It is unapologetically from a Black lens, Black gaze, and then we have to deal with the fact that that is multi-layered, that is polyrhythmical, that is very varied in terms of its stance, its form, its color, its texture, who we are. And so it's all inclusive because that is who we are in our fullness. The invitation is for everyone uh, uh, with all these perspectives to speak on their truths, to engage with each other, whether we agree with each other or not. Um, that's important too.
We see a lot on social media. You can like legitimately scroll and just about stumble upon anything. And you're in theater, and my question is somewhat, how do you carefully engage trauma? And as a viewer, but then also as a curator. And is that even a reasonable question?
I am engaging the challenges of life and how we uh, move through them, those challenges. That's what I'm engaging with. Uh, Life and all the seasons of life. We come from a legacy of survival, of overcoming, not only surviving, but thriving. How did that happen? How did we get here? And it is not then about the suffering. It is about the challenges and how we have overcome all of it to pass it down to those strategies to our children and our children's children's children, to let them know that no matter what this moment is, what this moment in time is, we can reach back and source all the strength that keeps us moving forward each and every day. That's the conversation and the conversations I'm interested in.
There's only one other person I've ever heard speak in this way. And when I say in this way, I mean at this pace, this sort of like very exacting, very intentional, very. There's only one other person, and he happens to also be a theater person and actor. It's Delroy
Is it
Lindo.
Felicia?
No, it's Delroy Lindo. It's Delroy Lindo. If you've ever heard Delroy Lindo in an interview, he's so like he's precise. He's very because he. I think and so my question is, as I think about process, I think about art, I think about theater. Like I guess I want to know what has theater taught you
Mm.
when it comes to engaging with yourself and
Well,
with the community.
well,
Yeah.
I'll start from the very beginning then. I've been writing since maybe 4 years old. That was my mother's hand on mine, teaching me to write children's books, crayons, construction paper, on the floor, dreaming. Starts with dreaming. She was a teacher, so she was very intentional. She wanted to empower me to be able to um, write my own narrative, understanding that in this world, before you take your first breath, people are writing your whole life story. Do you want to follow that? Or do you want to write your own? So she taught me it begins with dreaming. It begins then with how you navigate, figuring, strategizing, how you get from dream to something that is concrete. It is rolling up your sleeves and hard work on a daily basis. That's how you begin to create yourself in your own image, even as you don't really see that in front of you. That's what she gave me, that power to engage in that way through the arts. It was then that I understood that it is a survival tool for me. This great gift that she gave me in terms of figuring my way through the arts. That is something that I love to share then with others, to empower others to know that as well.
Do you remember some of the first times that you encountered joy and shame as a writer?
Joy and shame, yes, absolutely. That is the process of writing. It is. I know we get stifled sometimes. We freeze sometimes. We get writer's block, is what they call it. And I oftentimes find that it's because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of, we're talking about that blank page or blank screen. I'm afraid of what might come out. A lot of times we're taught to be silent, and that's how we survive. I think that was also an entry for me as well, to be silent. We're silenced a lot of times because of emotional fear, physical fear of the repercussions of what might be in our wonderful brains, our wonderful minds. And so it is an outlet to speak exactly what it is that you are seeing and to speak the truth of it. It can be quite frightening. And so I find then that when I'm not wanting to put those words down, I have to stop and say why, and to face those fears and do it anyhow, and share it. Because that's the other thing, is that once you put it out there, someone might hear it, and what might be their response? I find that it's always been exhilarating to write and to share that.
Do you remember, as a writer, the first time, or at what age, at what stage in your life that you wrote the Black woman as beautiful? Was that, do you
Oh,
feel like,
always, always. Again, that was my mother's intention, is for this little chocolate girl to see the world through her eyes, her perspective, that you are unchained then by other people's eyes on you, that uh, you have that you give yourself permission to know that your take, your perspective is worthy. Yes, and that's how I was raised, unapologetically, to do just that.
yeah, what do you say to those who don't feel like art form applies political pressure?
Art and activism has gone hand in hand for eons. A lot of times that is that underground route to get things out there, to get the message out there. And we think about the drum, starting with, again, American history, that through the drum, we were sending those secret messages through music, uh, through uh, uh, through song. Uh, when the drum was taken away, then we started pounding our feet, becoming tap dancers through the arts, uh, through music, again, channeling music, Black Album Mixtape, these voices, that bodies that were barred from certain homes, only to go in the back door every once in a while when allowed, but seeped through the radio into people's homes, the messages of our lives and our humanity, seeped through undisturbed to let people know who we are for real, not these bastardized images that deformed. That's the power of, of who we are through the arts.
What? I'm always, you know, some would consider you an OG, you know, and,
Yes,
you know,
yes, I am.
you know, absolutely. OG is something. OG is something that one must earn. You earn that, right? Like, and so as an OG, as an
I ain't
OG who
denying.
has made who, who, who has made you've made things your whole life, been making things for a long time and doing things. I guess my question, because I'm somebody who deals with the kids often, is basically what advice, what would you say to the youngins coming up? Because they're looking at you and me and Jasmine and all of us. What would you say?
The human spirit is indomitable, that you have inside of you this fire that comes from, where does it come from? And that's for you to take a look at, to find, to know that there is this line, this lineage. That's what gives you your strength. Those palms pushing against your back during the really hard times when you need to leave. You got someone behind you. You got these spirits behind you that will not let you fall. And even if you do fall, they will lift you back up. And to know that, to understand that, to have the strength from that, even when you think, I have nothing left to give, you do have within the bloodlines so much more than you ever thought you had. I know that's what in all these years. That's exactly how I keep moving forward in this life. It has been an amazing year, 2020 to now. And I went back home to Dallas, Texas. I went back to my mother's house. She's passed away, but her garden still remains. It is in that garden where she had planted all these flowers that still keep going up, uh, from hers to her mother's to several relatives are out there in the form of these plantings rooted there where I come from. That's where I needed to be to speak to these spirits, as so many people were passing each and every month. Uh, I was facing the loss of loved ones along the way, taken by this pandemic. and also wondering um, what I needed to do to keep going forward and what I needed to do to encourage others because we all are in this together. That's what you realize. That's what I understand. And that's what I try and share then through my work to be able to, and you guys know that gift, that light that you've been given, so that even when we're on the floor and in the dark, we know that there's a light that surrounds us. There's a light that is within us. We need to connect. We need to connect those lights. And that is strength. It's strength. I love the arts and understanding that even if someone doesn't become a writer, but to teach them to create is so powerful in terms of any direction they want to go in this world. That's what I try and share with young people. Check out Black Album Mixtape.com. There you will find the works of so many wonderful people across this country who are so daring and bright and are speaking on the issues of the day and wanting to connect on this platform with you. It is from the works of artists to politicians to doctors to all who are sharing their lights on this platform. I would love for you to check it out and enjoy and support.
You know, I'm getting on there immediately after this. You know, I mean, blackalbummixtape.com.
Thank you.
For me, I just want to say, Ms. Taylor, thank you so much for your work. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being so candid with us. Thank you for your kindness and your love, because you can feel that through the screen, and I'm just grateful to have had this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Miss Taylor, it has been a great pleasure. Thank you all for watching Arts Across America.
4 years ago, I had a plan, an exit strategy, just in case. A passport, take off on football, North Star to Canada if need be. If everything falls down, I thought. And back then, when he won, I thought, okay, I'll just wait and see. I mean, how bad can it be? How bad can it get? Earlier this year, March, when they locked down New Jersey, I heard word they would lock down New York City too. Dormant building. Secure here, right? Then I see the cruise ships unable to dock when the first passenger gets sick. What would happen here? No fire escape, too high to jump out and make a run for it. And run to where now? Packed a large rolling bag, and my cat, who does not like to go anywhere, not to vet, not down the block to be groomed. Why his name is Miles, not because he likes to travel, but he sounds like Miles Davis. He is in the backseat kennel, wailing as we make a mad dash to the city limit. I tell Miles that we're leaving home, but we'll come back soon, at the latest, June. But he's not hearing any of it. Out at dawn, driving back where I'm from. On the way, we pull over to the 7-Eleven twice to refill, to pee, to eat, but not to stop is the goal. A storm trails all day and catches up just outside of St. Louis. Darkness and beating down. Blind to the road, I pull over for the hours until the storm is past. creeping into the Ville at daybreak, greeted at the door by my oldest Aunt Belle, 92, and her youngest daughter, Lily. They live here in what was my mother's house. Mom passed the year of Katrina. Aunt Belle has always been known as the keeper of all history, known for telling you who belonged to who and what date they were born off the top of her head. Not anymore. Aunt Belle nests in her wheelchair since a stroke felled her a year ago. I lean in to kiss her cheek. She speaks stammering softly, words spill from her mouth, shattering across the floor. I take off my shoes, walk out to the backyard where my mother's perennials, trumpet colors, red, yellow, blue, orange, violet. Planting my feet in the warm earth. Here, I quarantined 7 months. Aunt Belle died of complications of COVID in June. Her daughter moved to New Orleans right after to marry her childhood sweetheart. She died of complications mid-July. Here, I've rooted myself, never going beyond this yard. Miles gallops down the stairs in the morning to greet his favorite squirrel. He chirps at the crows. He wants to follow me out into the garden, but I tell him he isn't an outside cat. He yells at me through the glass patio door, not understanding the possibilities. Or is it me that doesn't understand? Here there's space, time to sit and speak to my mother. Here I am reminded how my mother, grandmother, and others, how they survived standing on this ground, how they raised theirs up to continue on after them, steeped in their spirit. We know we will continue on after all, after everything is gone. How you rise from the dirt, each and every time. I finally dare to step out of the yard 3 days before elections, early voting at the church where I was baptized. I wear a hat, mask, gloves, take wipes and a can of Lysol spray. Stepping back inside my doorway, I get on my knees and pray. I've never been in one place so long, not since college. To be still. To be quiet. What you see. How things circle back around. In the attic is a box. It holds my grandmother's Bible and her gun 4 years ago. Earlier this year, this would not have been me. Today, I sit, feel the ground beneath me shift, the box in my lap. I wait, my hands sifting through dirt and memories. Watch the sun fall down. I wait for the flash of fireflies.